So let's see what I can do on the Quad Cortex based on my knowledge of the Headrush. Since they both have a touchscreen and it seems pretty straightforward. So let's just see what I can figure out. On the Headrush, I know you can hit a ... and usually get some more options. So I'm going to hit create new, and we are on 1A unsaved, and I can probably go ahead and save this, and this is going to be called Nate Basic. This is giving me a few options to designate my preferred instrument. I'm going to do this for guitar. As of right now, we have a lot of lanes to fill up, but I think I'm just going to touch somewhere, and we can add an amp and a guitar, and you could just scroll your finger up and down to get the different options. So I'm going to find a Princeton Reverb, because that's just a good clean amp I like to use most of the time. So here's our US Prince. I can touch on that. And now there's our amp block. So let's go in now and let's add in a cab and guitar. And we'll use the USPRN, the 1x10, because usually Princeton's are 1x10 speaker sizes. And I know with that asterisk right there, that usually means it's not currently saved. So we want to go ahead and hit the disc to get rid of that asterisk. All right, so now we got a few areas before and a few areas after the amp and cab. We can add in our overdrives before the amp or some wet effects after the amp. So let's go ahead and add in a reverb, and then I'll grab my guitar and we can hear what this actually sounds like. So let's do a stereo spring. And if you click on a block, this brings up some parameters that we can actually edit. Now you can just use your finger and go up and down like that. But I know from watching other videos that you really just use these switches as rotary encoders. So that turns on and off the tails. That adjusts the boing, the tone, the damping, and the mix. So it's pretty easy just to reach over, grab the encoder, and start turning stuff. Okay, now let's add in a delay. And we have options like analog, digital, ping pong, simple delay, slapback, and tape delay. So not tons of options. It'd be great to have a reverse delay in there somewhere, or some kind of like ambient shimmery kind of thing. But most of the time, for me, I just use a basic digital or analog delay. So we'll go with digital. And if we tap on this block, we have a lot more parameters. So I can adjust the mod depth down here. I can turn on and off the ping pong. I can go over to page 2. And I do want to make sure that trails are turned on. Okay, let's do one more block here after the amp. And we'll go to modulation. And I like to have some kind of tremolo in there. Go to page 2. So lots of different parameters we can adjust. If I push the power button, that's going to turn that effect on and off. All right, let's go before the amp and let's add in an overdrive and see what kind of overdrive options we have. Lots of boss options here. The Chief BD2, DS1, MT for like Metal Zone, OD1, SD1, some exotic effects, Freeman BOD, Green 808, which is your tube screamer, Myth Drive, Noble's OD1, Nobel. They have to change the name to protect the innocent, but we kind of know what these are. Rodent Drive, that's your Proco Rat. A Thunderpaw is fairly new, and the Vimeray is a pedal I see a lot of blues players using. But let's add in a tube screamer, and let's try to really fill this thing up. So we're going to add in a compressor, and let's do a legendary. And I think I've seen from a few videos that it also shows your gain reduction of the compression, which is really great. And maybe before all that, we want some kind of wah pedal, which I don't have an expression pedal hooked up, but we'll try out the Bad Horsey And there you go. All right, so here's a basic preset, and everything looks pretty good. We can go ahead and store this. And there are different modes that we can look at here. So we got stomp mode. So there's all your different stomps. There's a preset mode, which we can just switch between different presets like that. And then we have scene mode, which allows us to essentially turn on and off different combinations of pedals. Pretty much any other modeler has this option as well. The Helix calls it snapshots, fractal, Headrush, quad Cortex. They all use the scenes terminology. So in order to start making scenes, we have to hold whatever parameter that we would want to adjust. See that? So you just tap on the parameter and a little scene block comes up. So in scene A, I want this one to be off. I can press the check. My compressor is going to be on, so that one's fine. But let's go ahead and still hold on the power so we can turn that off later if we want to. Do the same thing for the drive. And maybe you want to adjust the overdrive in your scene. So we'll tap on the block. Maybe we'll hold on the level. So that way we can move that up and down as we want. And I'm going to turn that one off as well. The amp and cab are obviously going to stay on. My tremolo, let's go ahead and set this one up. We'll turn that off. And we'll set up the delay. Turn that one off. And our reverb, we're not necessarily going to turn it off, but I'll go ahead and add the power button to the scene so I can turn it off if I want to. All right, so there's our basic A scene right there. And let me go ahead and press save before I go into the next one. So now if I press B, they're all going to turn back on again, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back into wall pedal, turn that off. And let's say I do want my overdrive on right there, but not my tremolo and not my delay. I'll hit save. And scene C is going to have the overdrive off, wall pedal off, tremolo on, and delay off. And then scene D will have the wall off, tremolo off, but I'm going to leave my overdrive and my delay on. So now in order to get to a different view other than this screen, you have to swipe your finger up. And now we can see our different scenes across the top and the bottom. You can also touch the scene with your finger if the unit's on a desktop, and if that's easier for you. So now we can go ahead and name these. I'm going to say this is clean. Okay, there we go. This one is dirt. This one's going to be called trim. And this one's going to be called lead. So if I had a lot more elements in here, I could probably use up all 8 scenes, but I just don't. So I'm going to stick with what I have there. Now in 2.0, let's go down to settings right here. We can go to device options and let's go to the about page. So this is updated to the 2.0 update, which means I can have different views now. So if I go back to my ... I'm going to choose the modes configuration, and we are able to essentially stack different options on top of each other. So I want to be able to see my scenes and my stomps together. And we can see if we tap it, it's going to toggle back and forth between stomps on top and scenes across the bottom, or vice versa. I think I did see somebody on the Facebook forum say they use scenes across the bottom and then stomps across the top. So let's go ahead and try that out for size. And we can touch the screen like so to get from our presets to our hybrid mode. Or we can use these buttons right here to just switch between them. All right, so that's pretty handy. You do want to make sure you press both at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to end up changing the preset that you're on. All right, so right now you can see that we have some things assigned to the switches that we don't necessarily want. So let's go to our amp block, and we're going to hit the A area there and choose unassign. And then also for the cab, so hit the B, unassign. So now we got these two blocks open. Let's click on the overdrive. We'll unassign it from F, and we'll actually press the target foot switch to assign. Okay, so it's pretty easy. So we'll just hit A and then press the check. So my overdrive is always going to be on the farthest left switch. That makes it pretty easy to remember. And then we got reverb there, and we got delay there. But I actually want those to be switched. So we'll hit the reverb, unassign. We'll hit that block. We'll hit the delay, unassign. We'll assign it to C. So now my delay is assigned to C, and my reverb is assigned to D. Okay. Now, what might be a little confusing is I didn't really set this up that great, because what happened is I have my stomps across the top and my scenes across the bottom, but I actually used scenes A through D to set up my scenes. So maybe I need to change my configuration from scenes across the top and stomps across the bottom. That might make a lot more sense. So let's go back into hybrid view. And now you can see I got my tremolo there. My overdrive is down there. Compression. And my wall pedal. So let's unassign the wall. We'll go to my overdrive. Okay, so let's flesh this out here. So let's put delay down here on H. Right, which nothing is on H right now. So we'll put it down there. We'll assign the compressor to be nothing. Let's see, we'll put the tremolo on G. We'll put my overdrive on the far left. Like that. And so we essentially have some free stuff here. I could put a looper on F or something like that, but we do have our scenes across the top. So let me go ahead and save this. So scene A is that. While I'm still in scene A, I can also choose to turn on my overdrive, turn on my tremolo, or turn on my delay. All right, so that's pretty cool. Go to scene B, that automatically turns on the overdrive. Scene C automatically turns on the tremolo, but turns off the overdrive. And then scene D is my lead scene, which turns on the drive and the delay at the same time. And I should have that tremolo turned off. So let's turn that one off. So let's go back, and there we go. So even though you can have some core scenes set up across whichever row that you want, you can still have some stomps accessible across the bottom. So now let's say I want to get to a different preset. Well, all I have to do is just press these two buttons. Now I'm in preset mode, and I can go to a different preset. And then after I'm done with that, I can go back into hybrid mode. Then I can have 4 new scenes and 4 new stomps of whatever settings or whatever you want that to be. But essentially, you can have a kitchen sink style preset that pretty much has everything you want in there. The only limitation to this is you only have 4 scenes you can use while you're in hybrid mode. If you don't want to use hybrid mode, you just have to go back to modes. We can hit the plus and the plus. So now I can just toggle between my presets, my scenes, which I can have up to 8 different scenes stored. And there's all my stomps. And as of right this second, I'm not really sure you can actually get to this screen without bending over and swiping your finger, which I would kind of think you'd be able to get to that area. a little bit easier. These don't have scribble strips. And you can also see that the colors are very similar. We got the reverb and the delay have the same color. You know, I don't need a Princeton reverb on a switch right here. That just doesn't make any sense. So being able to toggle from this view, which is really your performance view, and this is really your edit view that you really don't need to see when you're performing, because this view is just fine for all that. A line going across a block just means that it's off. But now I'm going to have to go in here. Let's unassign our amp. And see, that's assigned to B. We don't need that assigned to anything. So if we swipe back up, now we see that A and B are blank. So on the Headrush, you can actually go in and you can move. You can just touch a block and just move it around to whatever switches you want. And you do that in hardware assign. And I kind of wish you had a quick hardware assign option on the Quad Cortex. Because so far, the fact that you have to touch a block, go to E, unassign, and then reassign it again, that's just too much stuff. You got to be able to just move things around. On the Helix, if you touch two switches, it'll actually ask you if you want to toggle or swap them. And you just say yes, and it's just very easy to do that. But you can kind of see by the form factor here that it looks very much like the Fractal AX8 with your core 8 switches over here. And then you have your F1, F2, and F3 switches like the Fractal has. It's really just a shrunk down version of that. You know, it is what it is. So this is the basic preset. And I think it was fairly easy to figure out. But there's still some intricacies that I kind of prefer on the Headrush or even the Helix, as far as how you get around and assign things to switches and set up all your different stuff. So if you have any questions, be sure to let me know down in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release videos on the Quad Cortex. So thanks guys for watching. I am Dr. Mcfarland, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep rocking.